Hello, everyone. This is Tim Wotton. That is Cotton with a W. Welcome to the Gift podcast, which does focus on the power of the mind, mindfulness, and being more present to help overcome life and health challenges and adversity, bringing more resilience, calm, and joy into our lives. I am so delighted to be introducing a friend of mine from America, in Los Angeles. Her name is Elizabeth Yoder. She is an award-winning movie director, writer, and actor. Her storytelling achievements at international film festivals have won 15 jury awards, as well as 3 Audience Choice Awards. Elizabeth currently lives in LA, as I mentioned, where she is a partner at Play4 Films and is a grief support advocate for Elevating Hope, which is a non-profit organization that raises awareness for grief resources. She's also a full-time fur mama to 3 rescue, three rescue pups, all siblings, and 1 grumpy cat. Though I don't know whether the grumpy cat became grumpy when the 3 dogs turned up. I don't know. But we can delve into that one. She's also a favourite aunt in speech marks to 25 nieces and nephews. So Christmas and Thanksgiving must be a tricky time. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth. Pleasure to have you with me.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And you were just telling me that the 3 dogs you have, there were 3 types of breed going on in one dog.
Yes.
So what are they?
Boxer.
Yeah.
American Staffordshire.
Yeah.
And American Pit Bull.
Wow. Yeah, and I've just seen them behind you. They're pretty big.
Yes. They range from size 61 pounds. I'm not sure what that translates to kilos.
Yeah.
But 61 pounds to, I think Benji is 78 pounds.
Wow.
And Daisy's right about, actually she's the same about with Rose now with her sister. So there's 2 sisters and a brother.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you have a traditional upbringing, and where were you? Because you weren't born in Los Angeles, were you?
No, I was not born here. Well, first of all, traditional according to whom?
Yes, well, quite.
So I would say, even though I was raised here in America, it was like I was raised in a foreign culture in America, in the Midwest. My mom was Amish. My father was Mennonite. When my mom was Amish till she was about 16, and then they switched to the Mennonite church, and that's where she met my father.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up very sheltered, but in a really strict Christian home in middle America.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, very sadly, a huge event happened and changed your life dramatically when you were pretty young. Maybe explain to listeners what happened.
So when I was 11 years old, we were driving home from church on a Wednesday evening, and a drunk driver hit our car. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister, so there's 7 siblings. Don't believe in birth control. No. So we actually had my mom and my dad, and 5 of us were in the car. My 2 oldest brothers were living like in Arizona at the time, so they weren't there. But we were all in the car, and my dad was hit. We were hit from my dad's side. He was driving. My mom was right behind him, and he died.
Yeah.
And while we were in the cornfields, my mom, I just remember, kept calling our names out, all of us, over and over again, until each of us would respond. And my dad was the only one who never responded. And we could hear him gurgling there, and it seemed like hours before help came, but he died within 2 hours. And he said every bone in his body was shattered. And it pulled a rug out from underneath all of us. And life as we knew it was going one way, and suddenly it was shattered, and we were left in this traumatic event, putting the pieces together.
Yeah. I mean, my son Felix is 12, and yeah, so it'd be like him losing me.
Yeah.
Just unfathomable.
And all of a sudden, there's different types of grief depending on how the death occurs, your
Mm.
relationship to the person, how close you were to them. If you knew it was coming, if you had time to kind of prepare for the moment.
Yeah.
But even if you don't, even if you have time to prepare, like with my mother, she got cancer. She died in 2007, and we knew it was coming. And the odd thing about this, I was having premonition dreams even before she knew she had cancer. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, just she had died and she was gone. I picked up the phone and I would call her at 3, 4 in the morning and be like, Mom, I've had this dream again. Are you okay? Are you sure? We should get you checked out. And she was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Until one night I had the dream. It was so real. It was so visceral. I woke up, I was in full on grief mode. I mean, weeping.
Uh,
And I called her up and I could hear her voice, but it was distant. And I just knew whatever it was kind of like it was too far gone. And then we found out 6 months later she had cancer. The gift of my dad's death, with knowing how to deal with my mom's death, and then all the studies I've done in between up to learning how to deal with the initial grief from my father, I was able to apply it with my mother. So I would go visit her. We would talk almost every day on the phone. And sometimes I'd be like, Mom, let's just pretend that you're not here on this earth anymore. But there's a phone I can pick and call you up. And to her, she's in heaven. That's where she is. She's
yeah.
working in God's garden, cleaning the weeds and picking the fruit. And, she loves gardening. And I go, I can just talk to you. What would you say to me? And so we would have these conversations. And so I have these memories now. So when sometimes now I miss her, and I still have these moments of communication with her that from my memory banks, but I hear her, I know what she would say.
Yeah.
And so that was a gift from the journey through my father's death, and working with her passing as well.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be too many people that would describe the loss of a loved one as a gift, but I know you started at an early age to process this. It took obviously many years for you to get to the point where you could maybe even forgive the drunk driver.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for many, many, many years. I mean, Mom even, I think it was within a couple months after the trial, he was sentenced to prison for 3 years. He got out after 6 months, and I was livid. I was just like, my dad's life is gone. I will never see my dad again. And he gets 3 years. This doesn't seem like a balance. And my mom went to visit him in prison, and I pretended to be sick that day because I did not want to talk to him. I did not want to see him. And as a matter of fact, if I was the last person on earth and had to do it, I would be the one to kill him if I could. And that's how I had so much hate inside of me. But then from the also not just towards this person, but then I didn't understand how God could let this happen, because now I'm filled with hate. I want this person dead. And the teachings I grew up with is, if you think it, you might as well have done it, because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, as the saying goes in the Bible verse.
Yeah.
So now I'm a murderer. I'm going to hell. I'm going, and I haven't done anything. My dad was killed. So I didn't understand all these religious teachings that, I had been taught as well. So then I started resenting, the church and God and these. I always gravitated, though, towards the words of Jesus and read in the Bible, and also some of the Psalms and some of the Proverbs that were more of like the poetry, the do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone, those type of words. But then when it got deeper into, because we would read through the Bible every year, and every summer we'd read through the Psalms and the Proverbs, and we're talking about full-on dedication to this, this church and way of life. And in hindsight, I'd have to say it was quite cult-like even. Um, so that's a whole other story, actually. I'm writing about right now is the indoctrination, and then once being free from that physically, then being free in the mind from the indoctrination.
And if there's one thing that you would always say about maybe what it's taught you, what would it be? The loss of your father that's so early.
Father, well, like I have said, I haven't always felt this way, but I got to a point where I was suicidal. And I saw myself on a treadmill where I get to that point of having these suicidal thoughts. And then I would play out, different ways to do it. Then I would see, whether it's my funeral, my family looking at me, the disappointment, or even my ego. I didn't want them to think I couldn't, make it through. Poor, Elizabeth, nobody could save her from herself. So my ego kept me alive as well. But really the thing that kept me alive the most was the love that I have for my family, and not wanting to put my death on top of the death of my father. I couldn't imagine multiplying their pain, the death, the grief from my father. And I said to myself, you will live. You will live. If you have to be the most miserable person in the world, you will live. But then I was like, I don't want to be miserable. All right. So if my only choice is life and to live, then, and I started to go down that treadmill one more time, and I actually stopped in the middle of it and I started laughing. I was like, okay, so you've been here 100 times and you're not going to do it, so stop wasting your time. All right. So then I started studying other people. How do I know they're happy? How do I know they're really happy? Because I could see from the outside they seem happy, but I wanted to know, when you lay your head on your pillow at night, can you sleep in peace? And that was my measuring stick, because I could see people, they seemed happy. I would almost interview them, like, how did you achieve your happiness? How do you know when you're happy? How do you deal with these struggles? But then I still didn't know, because we all have our masks, we all have our personas, but then there's that internal world, our inner sanctuary where only we reside. And that's the place we have 100% say over. So my brothers were in the military at the time, so I did a couple of things. I shrunk myself to little military size and put a little guard in my mind of myself in full Marine uniform with swords, and my mind or thoughts would start coming in of negative or complain, and I'd see my little soldier fighting off these.
Oh, okay. You battered away the thoughts with your little... Okay. Good.
I was like, no, not that, this. I'd splash water on my face. I'd go for a jog. I'd run. I'd, do something to change my physical state. Emotion follows motion, right? E follows motion is one of the things.
They do say that if you want to change your habits, you need to change your environment. And so you were changing either your environment by going out or running, or actually your mindset to those thoughts.
Yes.
I mean, I lost my father when he was 80. So I'm not going to in any way draw any parallel other than he had
80 years of life. You've had 80 years.
He did. He died of you call it ALS in America, but it's motor neuron disease here. So a really harsh illness that robbed him of his movement and then his speech. I couldn't converse with him in his last month or two. And so I knew that the end was coming, but it still feels really final, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you really understand this more with your mum because you had a similar sort of journey, whereas your father was just taken abruptly.
Yeah.
And as you said so rightly, that grieving comes in all forms and patterns, and people approach it in so many different ways. And do you feel that because you've set up this non-profit organization, Elevating Hope, how did that come along from what you'd learned and that you knew that you had an opportunity to help others? Explain that to my listeners.
Well, it was, gosh, 26, 28, even maybe 30 years that my grieving process, because I didn't know how to grieve. It just seemed overwhelming. And at the time when it happened, I think the first grief support started maybe a year later. The Dougie.org is the first grief, and a lot of the other grief support is based off of their curriculum, their research, working with people for thousands and thousands of children and adults. So they develop a curriculum. But so I have done things, the type of schooling that I've been to has been more kind of, I would say, not the traditional college, although I've done college, but I've done more like Tony Robbins. I've done more like how do healing type of things, like how do I deal with this? Well, I even went to a psychologist, but it wasn't the right kind of psychologist. You need specifically a grief support, somebody who specializes in grief, because it's very specific.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to close the bank account on love. Your love with your father, you had 80 precious years of living together and seeing them in the physical form, and you will never close the bank account on that. It lives forever in your memories, in your heart, in your blood, in your DNA. And it's just that as you live with it and as you process it, as you honor it, that everybody deals with it differently, right?
Yeah.
So it was after one of the programs that I had done, I saw how powerful creators we are through the choices that we make, through our mind, what we focus on, what we choose not to focus on. And I got so many questions answered. Like, for instance, when I was 3, I made a choice to do something that impacted me when I was in my teens. And I didn't know it until I did this program, and it like light bulbs went off across my life. And then I started doing some research. First, I formed the organization. So I just gotta help people go through this. I don't want people to go this long as I did without knowing that there's things that are normal. Like, yeah, you're gonna get angry. You're gonna, do some bargaining. Like, if this, then that,
Yeah.
with God or the creator or whatever, powers that be, or with yourself. And then you get to a place of acceptance. For me, I had to get to a place where I was ready to forgive the drunk driver, not for him. I didn't do it for him. I got to a point where I was so miserable that it was more important for me to be happy than to hold on to my anger, like he's a bad person.
Yeah.
But also, as I started making a few mistakes of my own, I was like, oh, well, I can't sit over here on my high and mighty righteous pillar and be like judging you over there for what you did over there. So I started, letting those things go as I started making mistakes, because I was that there by the grace go I.
Yeah.
And in some of my darkest moments, there's things that I'm not proud of, that, and then the guilt and the shame from all of those things that I've had to deal with. So when I got to a point where it's like, okay, it was like staring me straight in the face. When I came to that point where I was like, okay, my measuring stick is when I lay my head on my pillow at night, can I sleep in peace? And if not, what do I need to go take care of? Sometimes it was just straightening my closet or cleaning out my car. Other times it was like, oh, remember April in high school and that time when this little spat went this way and that way, and you said this, so I would look them up, and thank God for Facebook. It's brought a lot of us back together, and it was easy to connect. And most of the times people were like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember that. So, and even with my sister, there were some things she was like, I don't remember that. But these were things that I was holding on, and they're like a stone in my shoe or a thorn in my side. So I started pulling them out. It's almost, I guess, what they do in 12-step, but it was something that I came to in my own by having this measuring stick of when I lay my head on my pillow at night, can I sleep in peace?
Yeah.
And if there's something bothering me, get up right now if you can take care of it and go back to bed and go to sleep. If not, by when will you take care of it?
Yeah.
And then that was the major thing that was glaring me in my face was, I need to go see if this drunk driver, is he alive? Is he dead? Does he care? Does he not care? Did he do it again? Does he have children? Do they know? All these questions.
And
So
you did meet him.
I did. I went and found him. On our channel, there's a little documentary, short documentary about that. And I actually got to talk to him on the phone. And I told him that I care about you. I know it sounds weird. He goes, yeah, it's freaking me out. I said, it's freaking me out too, because I've hated you for so long and I wanted you dead. And not only did I want you dead, I wanted to die. And he goes, well, nobody can pound me further into the earth than I have myself. And I said, but I needed to reach out to you to talk to you because I needed to know, do you care? Do you not care? Are you alive? Are you dead? And I also need to know if you're suffering and if there's anything that I can do and say that I forgive you. Not that I forgive you, that you need my forgiveness, but that if any way that can release you from any pain and suffering, because we have both suffered so much. And I've made mistakes in my own life. And I know how hard I can be on myself. And I can only imagine putting myself in your shoes. If I had done this to somebody, how much it would be painful to be on the other side of this. Yeah. And it's, it was the first time where I was able to put myself in the other's shoes.
Yeah.
Woo, and it was
deeply moving.
Yeah.
Thanks for being so honest about that.
It was so cathartic too. My friend who was with me directing this, she said my voice changed, my physical body changed, because I literally, all of that rolled off of me. Years. Yeah. Rolled off of me, all of that pain, anger, hate, to be free from that. But what's more important for me was to be happy than to be right.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got that closure with him, because it's obviously set you free in some ways from the chains that were dragging you down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delighted also that you did set up this, well, I'm calling it a charity, even though it's not.
No, it
is.
Elevate Hope?
Yeah,
it is an official charity.
Yeah. And the fact you do help people, because by helping others, you help yourself. And it's been going for 20 plus years now.
Well, I formed the charity in 2009 but then I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I kind of did things backwards. I might have put the roof on before I put the foundation. But I mean, my foundation is just my personal experience from it. And I've just been driven by passion and wanting to, I thought if I can help even just one person not to suffer quite as long, or to have a sense of compassion as you're going through these experiences and knowing that your anger is normal. Because when I started reading that, I started doing research and I started reading, oh, this is normal what I was going through. My anger was normal. I thought if I had known that when I was going through it, I probably then wouldn't have like, oh, you're definitely going to hell now kind of moments.
Oh, bless you. Well, I'm sure you've been helping many people get through their different stages of grief. And I think from my perspective, if I've got a doctor or a nurse in front of me that is empathetic, that makes a big difference, because they're actually putting themselves in my shoes. Mm-hmm. And so you must be a tremendous help to a lot of people who've sadly lost loved ones in any different way. And well, credit to you that you've done that and you're giving back.
Thank you. I just have to say one thing. I think we should make a t-shirt. Life is dangerous.
Yeah.
On the back, no one escapes alive.
It doesn't. Yeah.
That's actually, it's a part of life. If we're all lucky enough to live, we all will one day die. And just support in the process helps. And knowing that one day I'm going to be facing my own death. I have plenty of brothers and sisters around me. They're going to face their own death. And, that's what makes us all the same in the end. We all breathe the same air. We all are going to, live, and we're all going to die.
Yeah, and in Western society, we tend to try and not talk about it, death, and we try and eliminate it from our minds. And maybe because I've had this serious health condition all my life and faced death and cheated death, lost hundreds of friends to it, I'm probably closer to the subject matter than most, and I feel more alive because I know that I'm also facing death as well.
You're standing on that precipice.
Yeah.
Of life, every day it could be your last.
Well, exactly. That's I tend to live every day like it could be my last, and one day I'll be right. Unless you hope it's not for a while.
That is an amazing gift that you have. But my goodness, you showed me your chart of all the meds you have to go through every day for all your systems to be up and running and keeping you alive for 50 years.
It's a lot every day, isn't it? Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you were first given, you have till this age?
Yeah, I think I was early teens when I was told it would be 17.
Yeah.
Though in a fairly juvenile, infantile way, I didn't think it would be necessarily my story. Plus, I was playing sport with my brothers and field hockey at a high level. So if you're running around and keeping up with your peers, you don't necessarily think that tomorrow you're going to pop your clogs.
Yeah.
But with CF, with cystic fibrosis, you can have a downturn pretty quickly, and then pneumonia could easily cause serious lung function damage, and so there's a banana skin every day around you that you've got to try and navigate and dodge. So I think because I was playing good level of sport and keeping up with my peers socially, even though that 17 was the likelihood, I went beyond it and then just kept year after year defying the odds, and it just helps build your mindset that actually there will be a different outcome, or there could be if I stick with my regime of doing my meds, regular exercise, and I've learned the other part of the Holy Trinity is the power of the mind. And that's a very neat segue to ask you, what have you learned about the power of the mind? Not maybe just through the loss of your father and your mum, but just generally in life.
Well, that was a big teacher for me. I've shared a few things already. It was putting a little miniature marine guard in my mind, and literally it was like, and really just paying attention to my thoughts. Pay attention to your thoughts. Do not allow thoughts that, because one in some of the studies that I've learned is if you hold a thought or if you think on one subject for 20 seconds, notice how your emotions feel. So your emotions are like your GPS system. So when your emotions feel off or you feel depressed, where's your mind? That's like a signal to check in with your mind. Where is your mind? What are you meditating on? What are you focused on? And, we don't just think about something. When we think about something, we can remember, how does it feel? So we're feeling it as well. How does it smell? We're actually putting ourselves in. The mind doesn't know, scientifically, they've shown that the mind doesn't know the difference between a runner actually running, or if he's in this recliner chair and they have things, the computer, he's all hooked up to the computer. Okay. His muscles fire the exact same way as if he was out on the track running.
Wow.
And he's just visualizing it. Okay. And that's the power of the mind. So
that's very much the placebo effect there. That you're telling your mind something and it believes it. So, I'm a big fan of believing that you are your thoughts.
Yeah. So then I would sift through, because sometimes in some of the darkest moments, it was hard to find something that would make me feel good, whatever it is. Trying to think and then just you go into that world, you put your thought on that target and you focus on that and you bring it close and you make it big. And then the other thing also is your physiology. This is what I learned from Tony Robbins. How does your body look when you're depressed, Tim? What do you do when you're
I
sad?
probably
Show
slump
me.
my
Show me.
shoulders.
How do you sit?
Probably just a bit slump my shoulders.
Where's your head?
It probably goes to the side.
You're,
Yeah.
it's like you're just like what you're just down, right? You're
Yeah.
down. Now, on the best day of your life, how is your posture?
Every day is my best day.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Here
love
we go.
it.
Each day is an absolute event.
How's your posture?
It's upright. It's upright, and I'm
It's
smiling. Yeah.
Yes. How's your breathing? Is it full
Well,
or
with
is
my
it shallow?
lungs, not special.
But the point being said, it's
Well, okay.
almost
When I've done some sport and I've elevated myself to a level I couldn't imagine, that doesn't happen very much now. But historically, I feel, even though I'm not that tall, I'm about just under Tom Cruise's height. I feel about 6'5", probably the same height as Tony Robbins because he's gigantic.
He
Um,
is, yeah.
So yeah, I do feel, my spine's probably straight, and I'm feeling super confident and vibrant.
Your breath is probably full, and he calls it kind of the superhero pose, like we've all watched superhero movies, right? So they're like chest out and they're up and they're breathing and they're like, so sometimes if you can't find it in your thoughts, check in with your physical body, and that's some of the fastest way just to like start even breathing, just even if you have to fake it till you make it. So if you go from like this and you're like shallow breathing, you just like, you snap yourself, and it's a choice. It's a choice.
Choice you make, yeah.
I'm going to breathe deep. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to stand tall. You're going to be like this. You're going to be the superhero, because inside of each of us, there is the full potential of who we know ourselves to be. And if we're not living up to that full potential, sometimes like I beat myself up because I'm not living up to what I know is to be my full potential. So then I start doing, I can get down in this space. So I have to be like,
you pump up your own tires, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the subject of breath, Elizabeth, probably going to get into sort of more presence in a second, but I just wanted to ask you, breathing is the cornerstone of acting, because I think actors know better than anyone how to breathe from the diaphragm. So what drew you into being an actor and now film director?
Well, it's the craziest thing, because I grew up without a television. I was not allowed to watch TV because it was, the devil.
Okay.
Basically. I wasn't allowed to listen to rock and roll music. But sometimes I would sleep over at my grandmother's house, and she had a TV, and I'd stay up all night and watch these old black and white movies, just mesmerized. And I remember seeing Hepburn and seeing
Charlie Chaplin.
I love Charlie, and I love Lucy and all those things. And I remember one scene with Hepburn, and she was in front of this mirror, and she just looked so beautiful, so elegant. I was like, I want to be like that when I grow up. And that was it. That was just that little thought, spur of a moment. And then some of the times in the darkest night of my soul, there was a voice inside of me that said, one day I will tell my story. I didn't know how, I didn't know who or when. I never saw that it would be me necessarily telling it. I always thought maybe, telling in a movie maker or whatever. So, but I started out then, when I left home, I got into modeling, because people were like, oh, you're a model. Oh, you're a dancer. I'm like, no, I was like an ugly duckling. Duckling? Duckling.
Well, I find that hard to believe, Elizabeth.
Because I wasn't allowed to cut my hair. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I wore dresses my whole life.
Sounds just like me.
Yeah. So when I left home, my hair was literally, I could sit on it. But I wasn't, there was no emphasis on the external, the physical form, because it was all about the eternal. your eternal character development. What are you doing for God? What are you doing to ensure your, salvation and whatever good standing in the future, which now I believe eternity is now, and we're living in eternity now. It's not some far off distance. But so I got into modeling. So I was like, okay, what's the question? Sorry about the little
When it's how you got into being an actor. Yeah. Was it when you moved to LA?
No, I was in Texas first. I was in Houston modeling, and then started doing some commercial workshops. And there was always a drive for something more internal. There's like, okay, this is good, this is fun, but there's something more. There's something more. And so it was that drive that had me then start taking acting classes. When I moved out to LA is when I really took it serious in 2000. So I went to study at Playhouse West. And what I love about Playhouse West is a lot of people have this idea about Hollywood, Tinseltown, and all the bells and whistles. It's kind of like Las Vegas. It's very superficial, lights and shiny red carpets and, celebrities or whatever. But that's just the surface. Okay. There's, so the community I got with, it became my creative family, and it was like we were training to be Olympic athletes, and if you didn't take it serious, you were kicked out. And they encouraged healthy egos. I saw many of the other students get kicked out because they started doing good, started winning awards, and they got these chips on their shoulders and be like, oh, I don't want to work with you. And they're like, out of here. So, and I found that the people who are the real true, that have the skills and, the arts, they're down to earth, they're real people. And of course you do meet people with, that kind of chip on their shoulder, but I don't particularly like being around them. And they're not fun to be around as much as people who are just really real and authentic and about the work and telling the stories and bringing a story to life. A lot of the stories that I have done, oddly enough, have a lot to do with loss, grief, death, dying, or even loss, other types of losses, that are also one can grieve over. Can be, your career's headed in one direction, something happens, suddenly life changes as you know it, then you're left picking up the pieces, trying to reinvent yourself. Divorce is another type of loss, and grief. So,
I mean, my book or memoir is How Have I Cheated Death? I can write that book because I've cheated death, surviving my illness. I couldn't write a novel because I'd be trying to scratch my head going, well, what do I put on the paper? So I actually have lived something that I can then write about, and hence the podcast is about understanding resilience, calm and joy. So it is helpful to the writer to have lived something, because intuitively that what you're putting on paper is actually more realistic.
Yes, and that's what they say, even in filmmaking, is write what you know about.
Yes, I knew that was an expression, and I got it out of you cleverly.
Very good.
Look at me. I should be a podcast host. Oh, I am. So you're still going very good guns with that. You mean you are everywhere. You run your charity. You also, is it the just trying to look back at my notes, the partner at Play 4 Films. So that's a production. So explain maybe what that is for us.
Play 4 Films is a collection of artists, which Paul is a part of as well. And
Paul being your partner, who I used to work with.
Your friend. Yes. Sorry for. I've been talking to you. I forget where my other people. Hi, everybody. So you're a great host in that regard. So Paul, my partner, he's a designer, and he got into film. We went to film lab together, and then one of my best friends, who's also a filmmaking partner, Alina, she's one of our partners as well. She's a writer and an actor, very dedicated, and we used to get together 3-4 times a week and rehearse like crazy for our classes and our productions that we were doing. there. And then I was like, Alina, we have to translate this to film. Come on.
Yeah.
So there was a film lab that came up, and I said, Alina, do you want to do this with me? Because we need to be making films. And she's like, sure. And I said, hey, Paul, do you want to come with us? He was like, sure, why not? So his background is in design, as you know,
Mm.
and he has a wonderful eye, very talented, and it translates beautifully as a cinematographer with this framing and ability to tell a story and make it look amazing. Yeah, so
So
we did.
well done. Now that's going so well for you, and on all the awards you've got as well.
Mhm.
In a town or city that is, everybody wants a piece of the action, so it's hard to get cut through. I mean, I
Well,
don't know whether it's true that everybody in LA wants to be an actor, but the perception is that it's where everyone turns up to try and get their break.
yeah, it's the epic center. I mean, you wouldn't go to Egypt. I mean, but I'm sure there's,
Well,
not.
if they went to Egypt, they may be in denial. Sorry, that's not funny. I've been waiting years to come up with that one.
That's very good.
Fine, it's fine. Thank you very much. I'll get my coat.
I know Egypt has, I'm not downplaying anything on their film thing or whatever, but it's the epic center here or New York. So for me, it was either here or New York.
Yeah.
New York has a theater background. The Playhouse West is also a theater background, which actually a transplant from New York came here. But long story short, yes, so we're the Play for Films is a collective of filmmakers that we all invest our blood, sweat, tears. We tell stories, we write stories, we produce stories, we film, shoot, edit, and make stories that we want to tell. Some are comedy and some are drama.
Okay.
And some have won awards and some you wouldn't want to see. They were just experiments, but it's a place where we kind of sharpen our skills. And then I've done some, music videos, directed music videos and other things, commercial type things along the way to help, keep the roof over the head. And
Well done that you're doing it, and keep on doing that. What would be your version of being present or in the moment, and how does it help you?
well, have
Well,
to allow
Elizabeth.
the mind to settle all the thoughts, because we get our list of things to do. I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do, oh, remember this. So it's just putting a pause on all of that and taking a breath. The breath is powerful.
The breath is
It connects.
powerful.
It's the breath of life, literally. Without breath, we don't have any life. So to instantly get into the life or death mode, you can hold your breath and see how long you can hold your breath, and your body's going to be begging for breath. In the next moment, it's going to be fighting for life. So if you want to get present, just take a deep breath. I would say put your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Let it out. And I always like to visualize, because the breath of life, it's powerful, it's cleansing. I'm filling up my body container with fresh energy, fresh oxygen, all the way to the top. And if you want to add a little aromatherapy to it, also.
Very good.
Aromatherapy works on a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical body to clear stress, toxins, and you can look specifically if there's something that you're dealing with, whether it's repetitive thoughts, whether it's emotions, you get stuck and blocked in. You can shoot me an email, just tell me what it is. I'll say, you can look it up or whatever. And aromatherapy can help to release that. The aromatherapy is made from Mother Earth's plants, which are the healers of the planet. So with the breath, so as you're back to the breath, filling in with the fresh oxygen, I breathe out through the mouth, and I imagine there's a recycle chute right in front of me that goes right to the middle of the earth. So as I exhale out any angst, any stress, worries, concerns. I see it literally leaving my body and going down to the center of the earth, where Mother Nature takes it, recycle it, the grass grows greener and the trees grow stronger. So we're helping to heal the planet by releasing our stress.
Good, and I'm glad you found the breath, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it's something that meditation doesn't happen, or you find your own version, I believe. I
Yes.
anchor myself to nature. So
Yes.
step out the door, whether it be bird song, just the skies, because you live in California, or you get a blue skies, you don't see any clouds. So, but I'm joking. You get the odd cloud, but if it ever snowed, you'd all be wondering if the world is about to end.
You'd be in
Um,
shock.
yeah, but I just find nature. It costs nothing. You just step outside, and it helps take your mind off your
Yes.
madness, your
Hmm.
monkey brain, as they call it.
Yes.
And I grow roots in the moment, and just with that deep breath, I
I
become a tree. There we go.
I do that.
There we go. Look at us.
I do that. I
Yeah, you've
didn't
got to
say
feel
that
like
with
you.
my.
Yeah, you can feel like you're growing roots into the ground.
I do. I do that.
Yeah, it's
I
well, it
didn't
works
go
for us.
quite into it because it's quite, it can be a quite lengthy process. But literally, I do the same thing when I'm doing the breath. Feel the roots growing into the ground. I actually see them like they've been growing since the beginning of time, before the concept of time was constructed, because time is man-made.
Yeah,
These are our ancestral roots. They, connected to your father and your great grandfather and your great great grandfather, your mother and your great grandmother and your great great grandmother. And think about all the love that you have for your child and your son. Like he's your legacy, right? Your future. He's going to carry on your DNA. All the love and passion you have for him and all that you want good for him,
mm,
all of that energy is still there for you too, from your father and your grandparents and that's all in your root system, that you are now here in this present moment, in
yeah,
this physical body, to be, to do, to have your full expression. So your body's is like the tree growing up into the sky. Your hair and hair follicles like the branches, just opening up, feeling the sun, feel the sun charging every cell in your body. How powerful is the sun?
that's a rhetorical question, or do you know the answer?
It's so powerful. Can anything, like if you throw anything at the sun, all the trash on the earth, what happens? It would be burnt up.
Yeah,
So I visualize the sun actually charging every cell. That obviously, naturally, we have what is it, vitamin D, all the benefits from the sun.
yeah,
But through this visualization, even if I'm inside, I'm having this meditation and feeling the sun and just the perfect temperature, warming and charging my body. But then I take it to another level, that this sun is a very special sun. It's my sun. It
mm,
represents my light, my passion, my truth, my power. So I'm literally charging and connecting to my spirit, my light. And then from every cell in my body, visualizing tiny little sun in each cell, bursting forth and shining your light in every
okay.
direction all around you.
So your body is the solar panels for your cells to be revived. There we go. That's a
Yes.
good way of thinking about it. And what might be, I mean, you talked about meditation. Would that be your daily habit or routine that helps you just stay on top of things? Or is there something else you do apart
Um,
from 12 cups of coffee a day? No.
Well, I have a new routine for myself, which with my rescue pups, I've had to get my routine under control because it was like doggy daycare around here. Uh, so I'm up at 5, 6 in the morning. I go to the gym. I meet my partner there. I I say I have to because I'll hit snooze if I don't. I have a workout partner and she's amazing. She's also a go-getter, very successful in her business, Charlotte. She's from Australia. Uh,
I
and
hear your Australian accent. Come on.
did you?
You Americans, you're not
I
much
don't know
good
if
at
I can say
your
"os."
English. Come on. I hear your English one now.
She always says she'll say "os,"
Arse.
"os."
Oh, arse.
Yes, she kind of has. I'm sorry. You can believe that if you need to, but
No, it's all right. So
I
you meet
can't.
her.
So we meet for an hour, and we chide each other. We check in. How's your eating? How's your goals? How are you doing with your goals? I didn't do so good today. Don't worry. Just do it. Pick up where you left off, or pick up where you are right now, and reset. And then I come home within 30 minutes. I'm back out the door with the pups, and we go for an hour hike up in the hills in nature.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure that they're desperate to get out the door by then.
this is like So 6 to 7 at the gym, 7:30 to 8:30 hiking with the part, and that's if I get to bed on time. So I've gotten it down now where I'm working pretty good. Tomorrow morning we're up at 5. We're going out to
Wow.
Westridge by the ocean to go for an hour hike out there.
Wow. Okay.
hmm
Yeah, Americans don't seem to really sleep very much. Is it going to catch up with you all?
Well, I
When you
found
then sleep for a
sometimes
whole year?
when I was depressed, I was sleeping a lot.
Okay.
It was a form of avoidance because, most of the time I wasn't having nightmares. I was peace, but I wasn't sure what to do. And the thing is like sometimes we get stuck in the mind trying to figure things out instead of just taking action. Taking action, whether it's making a list of things that you need to do and to
Mm.
take care of, and just start taking action. Sometimes I found that um, in my head, it's made it out to be tougher than it is. When I actually get into the groove of it, I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. The
Yeah.
hardest part was the resistance in getting me to do it.
Yeah, yeah, often is. And thanks for sharing that routine. And
Mm-hmm.
as this podcast is called The Gift, if you were to open a gift for the listeners in the form of one piece of advice or a quote, or mantra that you think would be a good takeaway for them, what would you say?
So we may not be able to control our outside circumstances. A lot of times we can't. They're out of our control. The thing that we have power over is our inner sanctuary, our inner world.
Mm,
So seeing that as your temple, your sacred space, and consciously choosing to clear it out, whether it's through breath, whether it's through exercise, whether it's through the things that we eat, because that's the foundation for our life is our health.
yeah,
When our health is out helter skelter and we don't feel good, and sometimes we don't know it until we're sick, and then we're like, oh, I wish I could feel good again. But taking the time, that is your foundation. But then also the physical is then also your mental, emotional world. How you talk to yourself, how you love yourself. Do you have compassion for yourself? Sometimes I found that sometimes I had a little more compassion for strangers I just met off the street versus myself, or I'd beat myself up. Oh, you
wow,
should do this, should, could, would, all that stuff.
yeah.
So I wrote something down here because I knew you were gonna say, so you may not be able to control circumstances around you, but you have the freedom to choose every moment how you will respond to it.
Yeah,
And sometimes you have to go inward to create the clearing for yourself. And it's like that drop of water that comes in and it has a rippling effect. Then you can radiate out into the world. It's a frequency that you radiate. Everything has a vibration and everything has a frequency.
yeah,
And one last little tip
yeah, go for
I
it.
listen to a lot, whether I'm going into a writing session and I need to focus. Go to Google, or if you have Spotify or just type in HZ for Hertz frequency and type in writing or type in love or whatever it is. You'll get a ton of music that'll come up there's the binary beats and the frequency underneath
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so I'll just be here working and that'll be low in the background.
So
My
you
phone,
type in Hertz,
H, mm-hmm.
HERTZ.
Just HZ. You don't need to spell it out. Just HZ for
Oh,
Hertz.
HC.
HZ for Z.
Yes,
H,
yeah. That's
yeah.
our American English Z and Zs. So HZ, and then whatever it might be, writing.
See, writing,
Okay.
healing. It could be if your heart is feeling heavy, type in heart. And then there's ones that do the whole chakra system, the energy system.
Wow,
So
okay. It's good to
yeah.
know.
hmm
Well, thank you for that gift, and
Yes,
thank you for being on the gift. We've
you
had a
are.
good old laugh. Well, and also, you've shared some very poignant and profound memories and experiences. And I appreciate that you've been that vulnerable, and that
Thank
means
you.
a lot to me.
May I ask you one thing?
Have I always been this handsome? Yes. No?
I have. How do you do it? You look like you're like 30s.
I know.
Great shape.
It's all the drugs I take, 40 pills a day. They've sort of, it's like formaldehyde. It just preserves me.
Wow, that's incredible. I
What's your
wanted to know,
question, Elizabeth?
my question is, because I got so excited that you do the tree meditation, I want to hear your tree meditation.
I tend to, as I say, go out to nature.
Mhm.
Um, the mind will always try and force you to forget about the breath. So you do have to work quite hard. I sit down or stand, depending on where I am, and actually feel that when my feet touch the ground, that they're actually little roots that go out into then wider, deeper roots. So actually, I'm planted on the spot.
I'm visualizing while you're doing this.
Okay, and I can see you, and it's a picture. And then the breath starts. There's this nerve in our body called the vagus nerve that goes from the diaphragm to the brain. And by doing that deep breath, you're actually using that vagus nerve to calm you down, which is why when you're in panic, we do a deep breath unconsciously, a deeper breath. But most of our breaths are just in the top of the chest, which actually aren't that useful. I then listen. It's really important for me to listen and use my senses. What can I hear? What can I see? What can I smell? And importantly, how do I feel? And actually, I'm very keen to try and get to that state of calmness, um, even wonder about what's around me, because actually, then in that present moment, I'm not suffering with my illness, and I'm going to suffer in the future, and I've suffered in the past. But right there, that's as close as I ever get to being feeling healthy and vibrant. And I try and maximize that in more than a couple of times a day. Therefore, I'm joining up those present moments. But it's just growing roots in the moment. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Excellent.
And now, do you feel the tree growing up and into the stretching into the heavens above?
I probably haven't quite got that spiritual with it. As the roots go down, um,
Yes, definitely.
I probably just stick with that. But there's lot of moisture and a lot of growth underground for me.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things I do in the meditation, the tree meditation, in the roots, just like a tree brings moisture, nutrients from the soil, minerals from the soil,
yeah,
I imagine as I inhale those minerals and nutrients and hydration are coming up through my roots into my body from Mother Earth. She is supporting us. She's always supporting us.
yeah.
We're
Well,
spinning on the
it does sound,
wheel.
Elizabeth, like you've got a plan there to look after your mind, body, and spirit. And
Yes.
well done to you on that.
And the discipline then, because sometimes we think, oh, I'm too busy, oh, this, that, whatever, and we may not do it. I don't do it the tree meditation every day, but I do it throughout the week.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might do it 2 or 3 times a day. Sometimes I might be like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, where do I feel off? Oh yeah, ground.
Yeah, it's important you mention that word discipline, because you might get motivation to change a habit or introduce a new one, but it's the discipline and to make it sustainable that's crucial, not
Mm-hmm.
just like once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That you find ways to make it happen as many days as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've personally made it a more sustainable habit.
And you have the urgency of every day as your last day too,
Yeah.
that keeps your finger on that pulse. And just to say, it doesn't have to be an hour meditation. It can just
Oh no,
be,
it can
and
be
also,
it can be very quick. I mean, there's lots of evidence that even just 1 minute is better than nothing, just to get you going. If you're that busy, 1 minute. There's somebody I read, they pulled up at work in their car, and before they got out, they meditated for 1 minute, counting their breaths, and that was just actually help kickstart their day. That's achievable.
yeah,
Everyone should have a minute,
hmm
and you need to be somewhere, I believe, somewhere quiet and still.
yeah.
don't be doing it somewhere really noisy, because you'll just be distracted, and you'll wonder what the hell you're doing, because it won't feel terribly invigorating.
Mhm.
Um,
Although
but-
sometimes I have done it in the middle of a meeting when I was feeling a little nervous.
oh right.
I put my roots in the ground. I was like, okay, and breathe. Hello, everybody. Yes.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth. Um, Now
Yeah,
your surname, I called you Yoda, because that's how you pronounce it, but it's not the little green creature from Star Wars. It's Yoder.
yeah,
And if people wanted to reach out to you, to learn more and maybe get your support in different ways,
sure.
how can they do that? And what would be your social media handle?
For my social media handle is at Yoder, Yoder, Cine, like cinema,
Okay,
Cine.
Cine.
Yeah. And then elevating_hope is elevating hope. And you can send an email to info@elevatinghope.org.
Great.
And that'll come to me. And if it's regarding film or anything like that, it's action@play4films.com.
Wow.
Yes.
Got so many ways to be contacted. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm going to get you back on one day, because we've only just touched the surface, and you've got a lot to share, and hopefully my listeners will feel the same way. Um, Thanks once again. And for those that are listening, do subscribe if you haven't already. Do tell others about this podcast, because sharing is caring. And also, you know, the way that modern marketing happens is you tend to, it's really important that people tell their friends, because then if you hear it from a friend, they're more likely to take it on board and go, okay, maybe I'll subscribe or listen to that podcast. So thank you for listening. You can contact me at Tim Wotton on all the main social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Um, Absolutely delighted that you're listening, and thanks for your time. I leave you as always, yours cup half full. Bye now.
Bye.